Washington and Seoul discussing new deal on cost sharing for U.S. troops in South Korea ahead of the potential Trump election victory. U.S. soldiers participating in the 2nd Infantry Division Best Squad competitions at Camp Casey on May 1st in Dongducheon, South Korea. CNN, Washington and Seoul may strike a cost-sharing agreement for U.S. forces based in South Korea before the end of the year, even though the current agreement does not expire until the end of the 2025, as both sides feel a sense of urgency to get a new deal solidified before the possibility of the second Trump administration, according to two U.S. officials and two former U.S. officials familiar with the discussions. The negotiations over the Special Measures Agreement, known as the SMA, strained the U.S.-South Korea alliance during the Trump administration. The former President Donald Trump demanded Seoul pay up to 400% more for the presence of the 28,500 U.S. troops in the country during the negotiations over the current agreement. The advocate argued that significant U.S. troops presence in the Korean peninsula is crucial to strengthening the alliance between the two countries. The troops are important to both countries as the means to deter any potential attack from North Korea as Kim Jong-un's regime continues to build its nuclear arsenal, and as the way of bolstering the U.S. presence in the region to counter China's aggression. There is a more urgency to get a deal done before the end of the year on the Korean side, given the tumult of the previous round of negotiations, officials said. U.S. officials are engaging with the South Korean officials on the topic, but some officials fear that getting an agreement done now could trigger criticism from Trump, and they do not want the alliance to be in the former president's line of the fire if he wins the election in November. Under the current agreement, South Korea pays about $1 billion annually, representing the increase of about 13.9% over previous SMAs. Multiple rounds of talks to renew the agreement have taken place, with the 7th round concluding the end of August. A State Department official declined to discuss the specifics of the ongoing negotiations, but said that the U.S. seeks the fair and equitable outcome that will support the readiness of U.S. forces in Korea and strengthen and sustain the U.S.-ROK alliance. The South Korea Ministry of Foreign Affairs did not respond to the request for comment. Trump administration officials largely negotiated the terms of the last agreement, but it did not go effect until March of 2021. Just a month after President Joe Biden took office, which allowed the Biden administration officials make changes that got the agreement to its final state. During the initial phase of the talks, CNN reported that Trump has asked South Korea to pay $4.7 billion a year, a demand that came out of thin air and sent the State and Defense Department officials scrambling to justify the number. Earlier this year, Trump said that he did not think the South Korea is paying enough based on the last agreement. They were able to renegotiate with the Biden administration and bring that number way down to what it was before, which was almost nothing. Trump said earlier this year during the interview with the Time, why would we defend somebody? And we are talking about the very wealthy country but they are very wealthy country, and why wouldn't they want to pay? Past tracking an agreement is possible. Current and former U.S. officials said sources would not detail the current cost being discussed or commit to it getting done before the end of the year, but added that South Korea's commitment on the topic could drive the negotiations on to the conclusion. One complication uh, one complication is that the deal will have to be approved by South Korea's National Assembly, which is dominated by the opposition party to South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. The U.S. Congress has no role finalizing the deal on the American side. Some former U.S. officials have warned that South Korea not to move too quickly towards the agreement because it could backfire if Trump ends up in the White House. I think they are pretty close to getting the agreement done, and it is good idea for the US and South Korea to renew the agreement early. But it should not be done as the hedge against the next president. This is the kind of stuff that feeds into concerns about the bureaucracy working against the president's potential intent, said David Maxwell of the Foundation of Defense of Democracies, pointing out that the agreement could be easily torn apart if Trump wins the election and opposes the terms that are agreed to.